Okay, seeing that it's 9 o'clock and we do have quorum, I'm gonna go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Downtown Parking Advisory Committee. First and foremost, I do not see any public present online or in the building, but am I wrong? Am I mistaken?
I am not sure who iPhone is.
iPhone? I don't see iPhone.
Oh, I don't see that.
Is it McKay? I don't know
Oh,
what I'm showing
McKay.
up as.
Are you up there twice?
I don't know. If I'm shown, then I'm probably not iPhone.
I see your name.
That might be me. It's Ashley.
Ashley, I see your name.
Oh, okay. Then that's not me.
This is Justin Smith's here too.
Hi, Justin. Thank you.
Okay, so hearing no public input, we will move forward for the approval of minutes for the March 2023 meeting. If everyone has had a chance to review, I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Hang on just a second, Peter. Chance.
A minor correction we found this morning is in the V5th section, Park Wilmington citation analysis. Noah's last name is spelled incorrectly. It should be MCKEE, not MCGHEE. So just minor clerical correction.
Okay, Peter, do you agree to so move with that correction?
Yes.
And I'll take a second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. That was John with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, approval passes, and then we will move to Chance.
All right, thank you, Lynn. The parking management services RFP update, quick recap for the group. We initially released an RFP back in September of 2022 last fall. And due to all sorts of technicalities and a few errors from the submittals, we brought to city council back in December, and it was rejected by council, meaning we had to put out a new RFP. We didn't necessarily turn the RFP upside down, but we made some major hefty changes to the process and the ultimately resulting contract that would get awarded from this RFP prior to putting it back out. One of the big changes we made was we changed this to a management reimbursable type agreement versus a flat fee agreement. And just a quick synopsis on the difference there. Basically, we're putting this thing out there with two budgets. One, a comprehensive reimbursable budget. And then there is a flat management fee on top of that reimbursable budget versus the total comprehensive flat fee agreement. And a good example of the difference here, the way the contract currently runs is we are paying Lanier Reef a flat fee per location per year. So if they've built in $100,000 worth of payroll and they have 10 vacancies for 6 months, the city doesn't see any of that savings. With the new process management agreement, that's all passed through back to the city. So if there are 10 vacancies, that doesn't get billed back to the city now. So there's a potential big savings. The ultimate positive here is just more control by the city. We're dotting our I's, crossing our T's. We are the ones that issued the detailed budget in the RFP process. So that's kind of the biggest change. And just so DPAC is aware too, I think right now we're looking at within this RFP, depending on how many part-time employees come out of the allocated hours, roughly 24 to 27 employees will be employed through this contract. We have made a conscious effort to look at the pay scales of these employees. We are requiring certain pay scales for certain positions, and we are bringing in a starting salary of our frontline staff at $18 per hour through this contract. I think as little as 3 to 4 years ago, the frontline staff were making $9, $10, $11 per hour. As of recent, I believe that's been bumped up to 14, 15. And we're taking it a step further and going at a starting scale of $18 per hour. We want to get the right people in the right positions, and we want to hang on to them. So we made a conscious effort to make that change. And it's not just the frontline staff. We put in with our knowledge of what the industry looks like right now and what some of our local teams are already making. We put in nearly a 17 to 20% increase on even those higher level management positions as well. So once again, we're trying to work with the contractor in the future, get the right people in and keep the right people. It's been a lot of turnover over the last 3+ years, and I think we can see that. Just one more thing to note, with the new contract, probably missing tons. It's a 80-page RFP. We are going to be bringing on 2 new golf carts, 1 new truck for maintenance type work. There is a budgeted LPR system. We are first going to be capturing on-street data with that, but very quickly, hopefully moving to LPR-based enforcement at the Second Street lot, Hannah Block lot, and hopefully the residential areas here at some point as well.
Made a time frame for that.
For the LPR?
Yeah.
The start date for the contract is going to be July 1. We should have vehicles on site, July 1. I would say LPR system for at least capturing the data piece,
Right.
30 days in, if that. And then there'll have to be some modifications to the Calais meters at the lots. I'd say by fall.
Full force.
Yeah, but we'll bring that all as we make those kind of operational changes. Sure. Nothing's going to happen to the on-street in terms of the single space meters and all that. It's just really, we're going to start with baby steps and license plate based credential at the 2 lots first, and then kind of take it from there. All right, and my mouse is not working. All right, so new RFP issued January 30th. This year, 2023, city received 5 contractor responses, then shortlisted to 3 for a panel interview. The top 3 out of that 5 that got shortlisted for a Q&A and interview were Pivot Parking, PCI Municipal Services, and the Car Park. I've said this for the last probably 45 to 60 days. Even out of the 5 contractor responses received, there wasn't a bad choice. I mean, they were all 5 nationally known parking operating firms, kind of the best of the best, the way I would consider it. And the 3 of the 5 were really the best of the best. Just a quick review of the pricing sheet. As I had noted earlier, the pricing submittals were split into 2 separate sections. One of them being the city issued budget, which isn't on this sheet. And the second being the flat management fee, which would be inclusive of the operator profit, liability insurances, the vehicles that will be required for the contract, home office expense, maybe a few other small items that we didn't want to be reimbursable because it gets kind of gray and subjective with some of those expenses. So we kind of dictated what should be included in that management fee. So the 5-year total management fee of the 5 submittals are up there on the screen. Pivot was the lowest at $746,762.73. Surely wish they had rounded up, but it is what it is. And then residual from there, PCI second on the pricing, Car Park, Linear Reef, and Laz. Pricing difference varied from 7% up to 81.28% over the course of the 5-year period. So kind of a big range in management fee pricing there, which was interesting.
That's the variance from the previous contract?
No, Peter, this is these are the 5 contractors that submitted. And this is the management fee that they submitted to the city. So this variance is the difference between the 5 contractors that submitted proposals.
Okay,
As compared to now, that's a great question though, but compared to the current price, all in, I could get the group that, I don't have that number in front of me, but all in, it's pretty static, because not included on this sheet here is the city issued operating budget. And the city issued operating budget, each year is roughly $2.4 million, and going up 5% each year. So over the course of the 5 year, the city operating budget side of this is $13.4 million. So you can see majority of the expenses are going to be reimbursable through this management fee deal. This is just the kind of the management fee profit side of the contractors.
okay, good. Thank you.
The other fee, the city required operating budget that's going to go into this contract was static for all of the submittals, so that we could have a better apples to apples, not an apples to orange type comparison. So committee met, long Friday of interviews, lots of conversations, lots of back and forth. Like I said, we really had 3 of the best operators that in terms of what they submitted and what they presented to the city that I've seen in a long time in my history. What we feel the advantage of our recommendation, which is going to be Pivot Parking, is really a strong local support team that is based in New Hanover County. Their corporate office is right up the road in Wrightsville Beach. And they already have a great working knowledge of the regional parking operations with Surf City, Wrightsville Beach, Carolina Beach, North Myrtle Beach. Some of their corporate team has had history with the Park Wilmington operations previously with Lanier Parking. And they were the lowest cost of the 5 submittals that we received. And it wasn't solely based on cost. But cost obviously is an important factor. And if you roll back to the previous slide, say we were to have, just using LAS as an example, we had recommended LAS, we would have to make up that $600,000 variance with parking fees or cuts somewhere in the other budget. So pricing was not the sole factor, but pricing was very important here.
You mentioned, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a handful of old Lanier employees that basically started Pivot, didn't they?
Correct.
We know a lot of.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, their current CEO was a former executive with Lanier. I think a couple of their second tier high level management folks are former Lanier from various areas, Greenville, Richmond, and then even here local. Corinne is still with Pivot Parking, correct? Yes. So as I noted earlier, the year one, I actually didn't note this earlier, but comprehensively of $745,000, there's management fee, but their year one management fee was $139,257.34. And the city issued operation budget was $2.337 million. So for year one total, $2,476,000, I'm going to stumble here, $76,316.34 is what we will be recommending to City Council on May 2nd. We are also recommending just a 1-year contract with two-year extension clauses. We want to protect the city's interest here. We hadn't had a change in parking operators in 13, 14 years. It's been a long time since we've seen any name change. Now, current operators have kind of been sold and turned a couple of times as subsidiaries under larger brands, but we haven't had a change here in nearly, I think, 13 or 14 years. So we want to protect the city's interests, a 1-year contract, and at the city's discretion, two two-year contract extension clauses for a 5-year total. recommendation will go to council on May 2nd with an anticipated start date right in the heart of busiest time of the year for the city of Wilmington, July 1st, 2023. And that was not strategic. So it's just how it happened. I think originally these contracts were running February through January, kind of one of our slower times. And that's how we were trying to do the previous RFP, but with the rejection by council back in December, we gave Lanier's a 5-month contract extension that put us to July 1st. So not ideal, but we'll make it happen. That is it for the good of the group. I'd be happy to answer any questions, concerns that anyone may have here.
Appreciate you running all this down and organizing it.
Cool. With that management fee and the whole year total cost, what's the city's profit and / or lost on the whole year revenue?
So the way the city runs its budget process, we have to have a balanced 0 budget. So that 2.4 million is one piece of our separate operating budget for parking. So we balance to 0. So profit per se, I would say some of that profit, I wouldn't call it profit, but some of that surplus from the revenues that actually come in just go to fund the other side of this operating budget. We've got I think if you take away the River Place debt service, we've got nearly a $5.4 million operating budget inclusive of the 2.4. So we balance to 0, and if any surplus comes through at the end of the operating year, that goes into the parking fund balance for items such as capital repairs across the street, new parking technology, and so on.
From a service and operations standpoint, what makes this particular company better than Lanier? Or
One of
what
the
are
things we were targeting was a smaller company that could service our needs and the city's parking needs quicker. And I would say Lanier at one point 5+ years ago was a smaller regionally based parking operations company. They sold themselves twice and have grown much bigger and umbrella under a much larger corporate corporation. And there are steps and time and delays that we've seen over the last 24 to 36 months that we feel that we won't see with a much smaller company. And I will make another note too, what we tried to do in terms of our decision here, we didn't want to look at any history of good, bad, indifferent of our current operator. What we wanted to do was look at those 5 submittals and what we're requiring in the RFP, base our decision not on any history. We wanted to look at what we got, what we were requiring, and what we wanted to do moving forward based on those 5 responses.
And just if I might jump in, I sat on the board with this. So just to add, as Chance mentioned, the top 5 were truly the best of the best. But when you're all basically coming to the table with the same sort of offerings, you really have to look at cost, and paying almost 50% more for a service when we are getting as same, if not better, from another company, had to weigh strongly in the decision-making process.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lynn. If I'll swing back to this pricing point, and remember, the page up here is that management fee. So it's profit, the same vehicles that are required for everyone, the liability insurances, home office, and a few other very minor things. And there are stark differences. And if you really, back to your question, if you look at the Reef Lanier versus Pivot over the course of 5 years, it's a $315,000 difference. So that's a big one because we're factoring in a majority of the operations in that other budget. That's a pass-through expense that everyone's gonna be equal. This is really, Pivot's gonna, from what we've gotten from our panel, our interview, and the submittals, Pivot's gonna give us more for less kind of thing. And they're located, New Hanover County, down the street, a phone call away.
Yeah, I'll just say I watched the transition of these companies, especially when Lanier was bought by, and then Reef, and then there was somebody else in the middle. They all lost their soul. SoftBank came in and the big investments out of the Far East, and it just changed everything. So it makes me really happy to see a North Carolina company chosen, because PCI is what, California, Los Angeles, Car Park is Boise, Lanier is who knows where now, Florida. So yeah, so it's really nice to see a North Carolina company, especially one here chosen.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Scott. One of the other big factors we look at, I didn't mention earlier, so apologies. We're really not only the client references, but the client references within our region as well as North Carolina. And Pivot's got a stronghold on the region. Car Park was another one that we really liked in terms of the references, because they did recently purchase McLaren Parking out of Raleigh. So they've got they have a strong presence in the state of North Carolina. So that was something we looked at too. It's just that local knowledge, local parking operations, and so on. I will also say, we have a meeting next week with the current Pivot representatives to start talking transition if the contract and award is approved by City Council. And the ultimate goal, I've already heard a lot of questions about this. The ultimate goal, and I've been through this on both the public side and the private side, the ultimate goal during a transition is to keep all of the current staff at all cost. That goes a long way, not only with the operations, but across the board. Our goal is to keep as many and all of the current staff that is currently employed with Lanier from July 1 onward.
Salary increase is going to be up to a new. In here. Employees is under that.
All right, hang tight, Peter. We're getting a battery on.
I had it on. You had mentioned that the salary minimum is going to be increased. And my question was, do you have an idea of what percentage of the employees are currently under that minimum?
We're in our operations budget and payroll. We're taking number one, we're changing the staffing hierarchy around a little bit in terms of specific positions. But we're taking every single position up 13 to 17%. So everyone that stays on board, even with a position change, like an example, right now, we currently have an on-street manager within our operations. That position changes to on-street supervisor. So even though there's a title change and a shift in responsibilities, the pay scale will still go up if it's that same person.
Very good. Well, kudos to you and your staff. This is something that's enterprise fund, so you work towards a zero balance. But with the increase in salaries for that many people and then using a local company as well, you've also worked economic development into this. So I appreciate the efforts on that.
Yes, sir. So with that, there aren't any other no plug. Any other questions? I'd love to have a motion from DPAC to support the decision that's going to council.
Yeah. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Keep it in the middle. sorry.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
who
Chance?
motioned? I heard
Second
John
motion was
second.
Scott.
Oh, Scott, okay.
Yep. John moved and then Scott seconded. It seems like all are in favor, none opposed. So moved, Chance.
Thank you.
And I'll allow you to move on to citation analysis.
Hey, Dylan, you want to give us a full screen again?
It's full on our end.
Oh, is it? All right, then leave it. Then you're good. If it's full on
It
your end, then
wasn't
you're
full
good.
before.
All right, got it. I didn't know that. All right, I'll kick this off and then pass it over to Noah with Park Wilmington. First, this request, the Park Wilmington citation update came from Scott last month. And hopefully we interpreted the request correctly. You were looking for the types of violations, right? And kind of where the percentages lied. Not only within the overall volume of citations, but also a comparison year to year. So Noah and team put this together pretty quickly. Good job. I kind of finessed it a little bit just to show some additional stuff, but here's the list of the type of violations that we're writing. Top of the list obviously is the higher volume, lower list is the lower volume, and just a comparison year over year. The red column is the percent variance of FY23 versus FY22 through March. And then the far right column, the percent total citation, is just that specific citations percentage out of the whole 100%. So expired meters are 52% of what we're writing, overtime parking 8%, and it goes down from there. I will say, just so everyone's aware, big jumps from 21 to 22, and that's really COVID related and activity related. And as Noah noted last month, the jumps from 22 to 23, not only is it activity and we have more cars out there, but you know, the Park Wilmington team has been nearly fully staffed over the last 6 to 9 months. And really a due diligence out there on doing what they've been contracted to do. Another note, Peter, for your sake, the 1, 2, 3, fourth one down, city permits only has increased 141% year over year. That is the 2nd Street block and the after 530 residential blocks. So that shows you that Park Wilmington is out there enforcing the residential blocks tenfold. The hourly parking within the residential blocks is a couple further down. Overtime residential, that's up 82% as well. So we have put a huge focus on the residential parking enforcement, and it's showing in these numbers.
Yes, that will be well received.
Yeah, no, this looks great. There's a lot of data. You can analyze this quite a bit. So this is great. Well done.
Thank you. And Noah, if I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal.
Oh, no, you touched on pretty much everything. The only thing that I wanted to add besides that was it's 2 separate boxes up here, but the city permits only and the overtime residential do play hand in hand together. You can't really combine the two, but for example, we have, South 202nd Street, which after 5:30 PM, it's 5:30 only, which would go into city permits only. It's in the residential area, so those two tie in together and, playing that same ball field. The boot fee, 21, which was 2020, 2021, which major COVID, we were outsourcing the boots for towing vehicles at that time. So that's why you're seeing that small increase. Fiscal year 22 was the recommendation, I believe, from the city. Apologies, I wasn't here during that time, to take it internal. So that's when we started booting vehicles overdue by 3 months ourselves. So that explains that big increase on why the boot fees have jumped 811% at that point. And the reason why it's on the list of citations is because it is an additional citation plus their final total bill with whatever they're overdue. The commercial loading zone, I do remember a couple months ago, we were hitting on, making sure enforcement was big there. Proud to say, we're up 249% with CLZ area in Wilmington. The citation team, enforcement team has seen a big improvement on everybody parking where they're supposed to be. And if, like, let's say local business owners are parked in that area, they're moving out of the way when they see the trucks come in. So glad to report on that. And then we've also seen a decrease in the handicap zone of parking, whether on the street and in the garages at that time too. So we've seen a 23% decrease in that. Just based on that, we're at an average of 5,726 citations per quarter, starting from fiscal year 21. And then we're projected to end total fiscal year 23 at 30K citations based on the average data we have right here. And that is all I have.
For the commercial loading zone, that's the delivery vehicles, just confirming if they're parked in the middle of the road and doing an offload.
Yes, sir. If
That's
they're
one of
not in that correct zone, that is the CLZ enforcement right there.
If they're not in Scott, if they're not, correct me if I'm wrong, if they're in the zone and overtime, or if it's non-commercial vehicle in the zone overtime, it's a commercial vehicle loading zone citation. But if they're in the middle of the street or beyond the zone, it's a no parking area. Correct.
And you're enforcing the trucks parking between the 11 and 2 o'clock restricted hours on Front Street?
Yes, we are. We
Good.
made a big push for that,
Yeah.
as well as Chance mentioned, the ones that are just parking in the middle of the street, which was a big issue for everybody. We're really hitting on that.
I'm surprised there's so many. Is there something we can do PR wise just to tell people not to park outside the space? It just seems it's so unnecessary. And as we want people coming downtown, like we got all these people parked the wrong way, 540 outside the space. Where's the parked wrong way? Yeah,
798.
yeah, 798. Like, do we need to do some like public relations here? Or like, is there any recommendations, any thoughts? How do we? I mean, they're not learning.
So that's an interesting question and comment, Scott. Let's go to the outside the space first. When I got here 6 years ago, we were citing to the inch outside the space, and we were getting beat up quite a bit for that. And we've pulled back a whole lot in 6 years, even immediately as soon as I found that out. So we pulled back, and when we say outside the space, we're talking feet now, to where in most cases it's either midway into the space in front or behind, or into the drive lane. So it's kind of a safety type thing. Facing opposing traffic, I don't know what to say about that one. I've in my nearly 20 years of parking history, that is a very unique thing to Wilmington, I believe. That I don't see in my travels to Raleigh, from Baltimore to Richmond and so on. Yeah, we could potentially work with the city's communications team and see what we could do in terms of a blast.
And maybe like the chamber and, can put out, downtown business, reminders on their webpage.
Yep.
Kind of.
And we're
I
very,
mean, it
yeah.
seems atrocious that you have to say common sense. but-
And we even, a few years back, we get appeals about that, and regularly we get appeals. And we get the question, well, what's wrong with that? That's always well, why can't I do that? And it's safety related. When you have to pull across traffic to park in that space, and you have to pull across traffic leaving that space. And when you go into the state of North Carolina's DMV handbook, before you get your license, when you renew your license, and every time you update your license, first item in parking in that handbook, that I'm not sure if anyone pays attention to, is always park with the flow of traffic.
Well, I think there is an
Safety related.
there's an element of oppositional behavior in it.
And I think a lot of it
see
is, go ahead, Peter, sorry.
I see a lot of it in my neighborhood, and it's something that someone's saying, I don't think the rules apply to me.
Yeah, you see it more on the residential side, and I think it's less impactful in the residential side because it's just
Yeah.
lower volume streets. Now Fifth Street and some of the bigger
Right.
artery streets are a different situation.
Right.
But I think a lot of it is people aren't even thinking. They're seeing a space open and they're just pulling right into that space as fast as they can. But
I will say, a lot of the downtown business owners will go up to a vehicle trying to do that. And I've had a couple tell me there've been slight altercations. And they're not trying to harass them, they're trying to save them from getting a ticket. So I know the business owners are well aware.
yeah, we can work at the communications office and see what we can do. Maybe there's a friendly way to. Would you like to be on one of those videos? Okay.
Be careful what you ask for.
If we Get a DPAC member involved, that'd be good.
If I like to add a point to that, some of those appeals that come in, they're from people who are from out of town and not like states away, but further out of, into surrounding counties and cities. And their argument is that it's not a thing there, it's not enforced. So there might be just some cities or counties that don't enforce that law. And when they come here, it throws people off.
Well, it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, no, I think this is very helpful to the committee, Noah, so I appreciate that. And just confirming now that the boots, the immobilization has gone up so much, just confirming the city is still not going to collections and nothing is changing with the new contract with going to collections.
Currently, no, we take the top 50 regularly and send it to the state's debt set off. And collect that way, but outside collections agency, we are not pursuing that currently, but we are looking at a potential option moving forward. So.
Any further questions, concerns? Thank you both.
Thanks, Noah. And just quickly on that, Scott, we'll start bringing some of that stuff with our quarterly revenue, just so everyone's seeing it and watching those trends quarterly each year. So good points and good questions. All right, some additional positive news here. It's taken me 6.5 years to get to this point, but the Second Street parking deck rehab project current phase is nearing completion. A lot of blood, sweat, tears, time has gone into this project. I've never been involved in a rehab project of this size with an open operating parking deck. It's always been, we're closing it for 6 to 12 months and knocking out the work with nobody in there. So even at the worst of the worst during this rehab piece, we were still parking 275 to 300 cars a day, peak time during the summertime while we were chiseling concrete and doing a whole lot of work. I think we only had two vehicles damaged in 18 months, and it was minor car wash repair type situation, just cleaning where concrete had gotten stuck. $2.3 million later, lots of waterproofing, lots of concrete repair, lots of seals getting sealed up, brick facade getting sealed up, bricks, weep holes getting drilled in. We have completely now replaced the west stairs that had seen much better days 2 years ago that we had to close it to the public. They are working on the east side stairs today or this week. Hopefully 2 to 3 weeks, we're done there. And we started our complete LED lighting retrofit last week. We have both stairwells complete, and we started on the drive lanes, level 1 in the basement with the reserved parking spaces, and are going up from there. So big aesthetic improvements, big structural improvements, big safety improvements. I would say unless we've missed something, we've probably added 10 years onto the life of this structure. And we're not done yet. After this is done, we're gonna bring in our third-party engineers to do an updated visual assessment. And we're gonna keep going. There's some low-hanging fruit items that we've missed, such as just stripping paint, repainting. There's some items that have popped up on exposed rebar and small stuff over the last 18 months that weren't on the initial analysis. So we've requested an additional $600,000 to put into this capital project starting July 1. We'll update the engineering survey and keep going. I think after the next phase, we should be to a comfortable point to where it will just be some annual maintenance coming and going at that point. But I don't know if anyone's been down the west stairs, but it was pretty cool to walk through a stairway that was safe, secure, new, and lit with LED lights. So big improvements there. And continuing on the engineering construction front, we have completed an updated survey at Market Street. And we are waiting on the updated engineering survey for Convention Center. Both of those decks are younger than Second Street, in much better shape. Market Street's anticipated some minor concrete spalling. We've got some expansion joints that have failed and some water intrusion, but nothing major. I think we've got a $600,000 budget for Market Street for the initial repairs. And then same with Convention Center, mainly waterproofing and just some minor structural stuff. John, you park down there daily. One thing we are going to look to do at the Convention Center is we're going to have to completely scrape down the paint and a lot of the metal that's corroded on those stairwells in the parking deck, and then patch and then repaint probably with some marine layer type paint so that we can keep that from happening, because the salty air is kind of eaten through a lot of that down there. But outside of that, it's waterproofing on the top floors. So the big one is done, but we've got a lot more work to do as we go forward. So that's it for the city updates. Lynn, if there's any questions, concerns, be happy to address.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask how the Azalea Festival went.
Great question. It was fairly good and smooth in terms of the parking side of things from what I've gathered. We had some technical issues, which has nothing to do with the Azalea Fest. Noah and team battled through that and got through it. I don't think we've received the financial revenues from it, but it was fairly smooth. I was down here on foot Friday night, and again, Saturday night. Going back to the core of downtown spread out, it seemed much better than previous year, where it was very condensed over by CFCC.
Yeah, I was surprised. This year it seemed everybody was parking further out and walking in. I mean, I literally drove past downtown Saturday afternoon, 3:00, beautiful afternoon, empty parking lots downtown that I was shocked. But I saw tons of people walking from 4th, 5th over downtown.
I will say for the group, the one several complaints all centered around the same item that I got, not parking related, was just how the festival had kind of fenced off the food vendors
Yeah, that
on
was
the
bad.
100 block and the 200 block of North Front Street between Princess and Grace there. I think that was a big potential impact to some of those storefronts and businesses.
Yeah.
There is an after action meeting internally on the Azalea Fest, which I don't believe we've ever had before, coming up in a couple weeks. So I think that's going to be one thing that we've got to look at and revise and change. And just personally, it seemed the food area just seemed out of place.
Yeah.
There. It's been on the outskirts down on Water Street by the Cotton Exchange parking lot, where you've got to kind of go outside your core festival to get to it, away from your storefronts that are selling food. So I think that was a big impact. Christina at WDI brought it to my attention Friday morning, and then I received several correspondences after that initial. So thank you for that.
We sat on the phone with them for about an hour and a half, 2 or 3 days before, because DBA worked for about 3 years to get the layout changed for street fairs, where there's 1 row and 3 feet between in the middle of the street, not on the sidewalks. And I will say this is the most accommodating Azalea Festival has ever been. They've always had a little bit of the attitude, it doesn't apply to us. The same thing, Modern Legends and a few of the businesses set off red flags. And I did ask them, and they said they located the food vendors there. I said, so you've checked with Shuck and Shack, you've checked with Fat Tony's, and they all said it's okay? Because we specifically said, don't put food vendors in front of restaurants. So I think I don't know who of all those businesses said it was okay.
Yeah, and part of that could have been a miss on the city side initially without noting that. We got a new special events coordinator.
Yeah.
I personally saw the maps 2 months ago and just missed it. I think even with the food vendors there, without the fencing and some other kind of constraining stuff, it could have been a little bit better, but obviously something we need to work on moving forward. I mean, from what I saw from my 2 eyes, Friday night, Saturday night, the retail shops might be a different situation, but what I saw from the bars and restaurants, they were packed Friday and Saturday night from what I saw visually. I don't know if Justin's still on the call. I don't know what your restaurant saw down here this past weekend.
Yeah, I think that the last couple of Azalea festivals we've definitely seen, it used to be, it became one of the slowest weekends in downtown for restaurants in particular. I think the bars are definitely filling up. The restaurants are still, it still would be a Midland turnout as far as numbers go. And I don't know what that is. I mean, with the exception for us being Ann Bonnie's, which was busy all day and night. But maybe it's just the street fair coming to an end and people kind of the changeover, I guess. Locals, we still find that locals don't find their way downtown, especially Sundays, for our local hangouts. But overall, a good weekend. Nothing like it was 5 years ago, where it was kind of a ghost town for we the local restaurateurs.
And I had some comments. I realize it's not 100% parking, but she had mentioned a lot of the empty spaces. We also heard from hotels and venues that they this year had more people calling, saying they were having a hard time figuring out how to get to the actual locations. So I don't know if the street closures were different. I haven't compared maps year over year, or if signage was different, but it seemed like more folks that were coming into downtown, not as familiar with it, were having a hard time figuring out how to get where they were going.
Per my understanding, outside of the parade, it should be even easier to navigate now without having the concerts at CFCC, because prior that whole core was shut down by the college campus, and now that's open. So yeah, it's interesting.
I have a question about that, especially during the parade. We received the passes, and we still had problems getting our folks through. It seemed as though perhaps the police or whoever's manning the barricades weren't exactly sure on the color coding of those passes. Do we have any insight on how that's communicated, down through the chain of command?
Justin, speaking as a former volunteer for Azalea Festival, it's not clearly communicated all the time, because some agencies have call outs, have to replace people at the barricades, and then they don't know what's going on. I personally, CFCC had security stopped by state troopers, and they would not let them pass the barricade, even though they were stating they were coming to work for CFCC. So I think it's just a communication just drops at some points, at sometimes, unfortunately.
And
Yeah.
this year, in the past, they always dropped off passes at WDI's office and DBA's office. And we didn't, only the chamber had them, and they said they sent letters out. Even my house is on Front Street. I never got a letter. So a
Yep.
lot of the businesses were in limbo until the last minute. We found out Friday where the passes were.
Yeah, me, and then when I went to get the passes, the person who was at the desk really did not have a lot of insight. She showed me the map. She was very nice, but she showed me the map, but did not know. So maybe there's, just speaking from my folks, all of my employees, especially during the day, there's, 20 plus, probably, at least 15 cars would love to park in those lots. It's rare that we get an opportunity to park in those lots. So I do think that they are fillable during the parade with those passes. I think you'd find that they fill up quickly. So if there's any way to, pass that on, I know my wife in particular was, literally at the community arts center and had a really hard time getting through that last barricade, even though she had a blue pass to get to the parking lot that was empty, completely empty. She was the only car in it.
Yeah, I'll take these notes to the after action meeting in May. I think the pass and access piece is residual every year for various reasons. And I think the handout of passes going to the chamber and the Azalea Fest offices on Oleander changed last year for the first time. And I'm not sure, 2 years ago, I'm not
Well,
sure.
and in their defense, every year of Azalea Festival, there's something. It's either construction downtown, COVID, it's something. They have not had the same footprint in probably at least 7 years, probably 10, due to various changes within the downtown community. So I think these follow-up meetings are important. I'll be at that one too, and share the feedback, because I think they are receptive. It's just, like I said, in their defense, it makes it a little bit challenging every year based on what the existing conditions are. All right, any other questions, updates, anything?
Yeah, the only other update I have, not on the screen, but city's potential acquisition of PPD. We are moving along. There was an item city council this week for approval for the pursuance of the bond acquisition in July. The city has its final determination meeting with the local government commission, I believe, May 1st. There are expenses being put into the city's FY24 city manager's budget in anticipation of this purchase. If LGC approves, then city would then go to the public bond purchase in early July with a potential closing date of that northern campus, July 13th, 14th. It's really the main updates from me on that. I think pending what happens at the LGC meeting in May, we'll have some clear, more pertinent path forward updates in our May meeting. That's it for the city. PPD parking deck, if all goes as planned with the mid-July closing date. The very rough initial plan for the parking deck would be to serve the building tenants day one, which really at that point be Thermo PPD in the building. And then open just for special events, probably August 1st or whenever that first concert is in August. We have to get our feet wet. It's going to take us some time to get the appropriate parking, revenue control gated equipment in there. We are pursuing some gateless potential options at PPD. So there's not a huge daily demand up there right now. So we're just gonna kind of take it month by month. Right now, probably daily parking, January 1st.
But there would be more demand if it were open. There's been several times that we had had opportunities where we would have liked to have had it, so. just
Absolutely.
keep that
Like,
in mind.
and I say special events, so say acquisition happens and there's some overflow needs from the convention center for a 5-day event or a huge day drive. We will have that ability to open that deck
Okay.
for those type of items. Absolutely.
Very good. And that would be, I'm assuming, a cash entry type thing.
To be determined if for the event side, we're probably gonna come in with kind of event handhelds where you can swipe a credit card or pay cash at the entry until we get the appropriate equipment in there.
Outstanding. And that's how many spaces?
1,022.
5,000.
I think it's 22 ADA spaces and 1,000 regular non-handicap spaces.
Outstanding. Thank you.
So nearly double the size of the convention center.
Were there are there any gonna be immediate improvements to the parking deck that needed other than setting it up for service?
In the buildings facility assessments, there's roughly $600,000 of noted both short-term, interim, and long-term recommended repairs. It's about the same age as the Market Street deck, a little bit younger. Other than a power washing and a nice cleansing and some fresh paint, nothing notable other than that. Yeah, we're gonna try to come in, power wash it in the fall. Fresh coat of striping, stall paint, the windows need cleaning, just some minor aesthetic stuff. Structurally, there's nothing major that I saw that kind of raised eyebrows.
All right, anything else, Chance?
That's it.
All right, we'll move on to organization reports, and we'll start with CFCC. First of all, as chairman of this committee, I want to thank Terry Espy with DBA for your tireless years of service to this organization. I just learned today that you're going to be leaving us and there will be somebody else, but you truly have been a friend to me personally. But you have been a great advocate for parking downtown. You have brought a lot of concerns from the downtown businesses to the forefront with this community. And to be honest, I wouldn't know about it if it weren't for you. So I really appreciate your service here, and you will be sincerely missed by everyone. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you, guys. Now to CFCC, the boring stuff. As you probably have heard, we have acquired the Bank of America building on 3rd Street, the former Bank of America building, at 319 North 3rd. We will be doing renovations to that building. There are tenants still in the building that are using that facility. But we will begin working almost immediately to renovate. That will eventually house our nursing program. We are looking to expand our nursing program. There has been a huge outcry from the state as a whole about our shortage of nurses in the area. So this building will go to primarily service the needs of that program. Commencement for us is going to be on May 12th. We're having at least 2 ceremonies, possibly 3, in the Wilson Center. And then hopefully, knock on wood, things will slow down over the summer. And then the last thing, 3rd Street Bridge. Thankfully, we have seen a huge decrease in tenants in that area. It is still being used, unfortunately. But the trash and amount of people just hanging out there on the daily has greatly decreased. So much appreciation to all those parties involved with helping relocate those individuals. And that's it for CFCC, CVB.
We have about 10 different things coming up in the next month, but I'll just hit the ones that have.
Can't hear.
It's on. Okay. So the events that we have coming up that are of large Feel like I'm on the news here with all these in front of me. Yeah, so the events that we have coming up of a large nature in the next month. Personal administrators will be at the Embassy Suites using the convention center, 250 people. North Carolina Association of Public Safety coming in April 29th to May 4th at the convention center with roughly 350 people. And then Circle K is doing their top performers, so they're bringing in all the regional managers. That's about 600 people, and they're here for the bulk of the week, May 7th through 11th.
It works for me. It's just you. All right, DBA.
No, the majority of the issues we wanted to talk about were related to Azalea Festival. Other than that, and, you know, we're seeing the feet on the street, all the businesses are reporting compared to even last year, which their numbers were historically high. It looks like the numbers are going to fall in line this year too. Other than that, if you guys don't have anything to do Friday night, come see the hot flashes at the Firehouse on Castle Street.
Shameless plug there.
I know.
Your way, that's your exit.
That's your exit. That's how she throws it.
Dylan's gonna back us.
Don't quit your day job.
New Hanover County.
I don't have anything, but I was gonna see if Lieutenant Olinger had anything to share.
That's great. Good morning. Reference 201 Chestnut. Some numbers from CompStats from March the 1st through March 31st. The sheriff's
And
office.
this is the library, just
Correct. Yes,
for
ma'am.
us who
Yes, ma'am.
don't
I
know
apologize.
addresses.
Regarding also, the parking deck and the library area right there at the corner. We did completed 101 focus patrols and foot patrols, 12 field information reports, FIRs, 4 alcohol citations related to that location, 8 verbal warnings, 0 arrests, and we also distributed approximately 3 to 5 street sheets to displacement individuals and street transients as it related to community resources and information, and give them some assistance. I don't know if we touched base on the last meeting, or if it was talked about regarding the lighting. Facilities management did replace all the exterior and interior lighting from the existing soft yellow lights to the LED bulbs, similar to what the city has done throughout the central business district and the city as well. And that has helped out tremendously in that area. And that it's looking good and clean.
Thank
That's it.
you. Row.
Row, this is our 50th anniversary year. We are having our backdoor kitchen tour on October 19th. Next month, Police Chief Donnie Williams will be addressing the Row meeting specifically about speeding on 3rd Street. Probably many of you noticed a nasty accident at the opposite the Latimer House at Orange Street that blew out a brick wall and a lot of wrought iron fencing, so that he'll be appearing on that subject next month, May 10th. That's all we have.
Thank you, sir. WDI.
So WDI has kind of reorganized following Deb Hayes passing. We have elected a new chair, Tom Davis, and kind of just formed a new committee, the Downtown Development Committee. So the first meeting will be here in a month or two. So I'm really excited to get that started to help focus on some of the businesses and the developments that are coming, and possibly work with the city and the greater downtown area plan going forward. For MSD, we have hired two new seasonal employees, Michonne and Joseph. So if you see some new faces with the green shirts and green hats on, please say hello. They've been a wonderful addition to the team, and they'll be here all summer long and into the fall. So we're really excited to have them on staff. Azalea Festival, we had tons of hospitality contacts during the Azalea Festival. WDI was also hearing some reports as soon as the gates went up, or the fence line went up rather. And so we would love to chat with whoever that we need to as far as getting some input to the Azalea Festival for next year. And we're seeing an increase in graffiti. Tigers Love and Regal are back in the district. They've been doing numerous tags all across. We just removed one from the Cotton Exchange. So if you guys see it, please help us by reporting it and report it to PD too, so we can try and catch these guys. But other than that, all is well in the district.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, Chance.
And I don't think we mentioned this, but Christina is now the official representative of WDI on DPAC now, I think as of late March. I think it was shortly after the last meeting and I forgot to mention that this morning. So
Welcome.
with Terry's leaving us, we've got Christina joining us officially now. So
All right. WPD.
Good morning. So last month we wrote 15 citations in the downtown district. 11 were alcohol related. 3 were misdemeanor drug narcotic violations. We had 3 DWI arrests throughout the month. And speaking of the 3rd Street Bridge, we did make 4 arrests for some of the guys down there staying. So we're still trying to go down there a couple times a day just to monitor that. And they're well aware that they're not supposed to be down there. They've posted more signs up under the 4th Street Bridge now because that was part of the thing. They did move from the 3rd and went to the 4th. So we had DOT come back out and post signs at that bridge as well. Let's see. Our working relationship that we have with Jack and the MSD team played a humongous role in getting this last homicide suspect off the streets. We had a listed suspect last Thursday. I contacted Jack and his team Thursday night. By 9 o'clock Friday morning, we knew this guy was, he frequented downtown, basically a couch surfer, and had a history of some stuff down there. So we just kind of reached out to them. 9:45 Friday morning, Jack called me and said he had eyes on him, and we were able to lead officers right to him and get him into custody without any issues. So that's a huge asset to our team. And like I said, we always harp on Jack and those guys, but those guys are wonderful and a great part of our team. As for Azalea Festival, we had 3 arrests throughout the weekend, which to me, that's good. We didn't have any issues, nothing major to report. And those were only for a couple guys that we were familiar with, had some probation warrants, and we were able to get them off the street. But other than that, it was a great weekend and nothing major. No news is good news.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Just a quick question, as a cargo district guy and things are getting a lot busier down Castle and where does kind of like, I know we're the downtown parking advisor, but it's kind of downtown. So I just noticed Castle's getting, Terry, you can chime in on this, probably better than me. My kids go to Gregory, so I'm on Castle every day with cars stacking up and the success of all the businesses on Castle and what Ellis Smith has done in the cargo district. It's just getting packed down there. I know there's no paid parking anywhere on Castle, so just wanted to bring it to the committee's.
Well, James Goodnight has purchased 4 buildings in the heart of Castle Street. He's going to be bringing in more chefs. There's a new director at the Mission who's a little more attentive to how often his lot is filled up. I know at the firehouse, my sister that runs the event space there, we write a check every year just saying thank you, and our events are at night, so it's not a problem, but it is becoming more of a problem even in the heart of it there. And I mean, Leslie's gonna have his hands full down there. He's got 2 or 3 lots, but it's the big empty lot on Castle across from Michael Moore. Kent Tomaselli owns half of it. The other half is owned by an estate that the family don't even talk to each other. Ultimately, if we wanted to be proactive, we need to figure out how to take advantage of that empty lot and work with Kent and as far as that area, but it's
Yeah.
Castle Street Kitchen's busy, everything's busy.
Any thoughts, when do we think that's might have to transition to paid, or what, are we getting any complaints from Luna Cafe and that people or employees are abusing the on-street? Are you hearing anything?
Not so much, but I mean, the business to the right, that was Denise Flowers Real Estate Office, has been sold to a production company and they're towing everybody. So it's not fun neighbors.
Just when we're looking hard at 4th Street in a long-term plan, we've got Soda Pop, Castle, and Cargo. We're watching from a 12-story level right now. What I see, I come down Castle regularly to and from work, and what I see is one of the biggest challenges on Castle is stationary cars. You see some
boats,
very known cars parked there all day, every day, weeks at a time. A very easy first approach would be just a 2 to 4 hour parking restriction and some enforcement on those blocks. The challenge that always comes with that is the residual residential effect. So as soon as you start restricting parking on those CBT or mixed use streets, then it's a domino effect out. So we've got to look at it from a proactive measure, knowing that if we make any changes, there's going to be a residual effect, and be ready to put in some solutions that way. But we're watching, we're monitoring. When I've been at the Cargo on a busy night, it seems to be okay. I've seen some busier nights, but I'm not really seeing a lot of push into the neighborhoods yet, which is good. Personally been able to swoop in and out at 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock and grab a space either there on 16th, 17th, or one of those cross streets. The good thing about the Cargo district, they're not big and there's not a lot of them, but there are some privately owned lots in there that are servicing that development, which I think is helpful, which you don't have on Castle Street. I think that's going to buy us some time before it becomes a challenge. And then the Soda Pop is one that we're going to have to watch very, very closely, because I think the Soda Pop is one where, as things continue to progress, it's going to spread outly into the residential side of those neighborhoods. So
I do think streets, who does sidewalk, who does crossing walks, is that streets or engineering?
State Maze.
They need to potentially start doing something. There's so much foot traffic happening. There's no crosswalk. So not really a DPAC thing, but a safety thing.
Yeah, there's already a significant problem at South Front. And where's that right now in Willard? I know the discussion was to close part of that street. It's a bad street to get on a 3rd anyway.
I believe, let me follow up on that. Yeah, I know it was back and forth to where there were some solutions and then the developer had pulled back. Let me follow up. That's one we're forgetting about too. Where from what I've gathered, there's probably on a busy night, 50 to 60 space shortage in terms of what they can service with the current satellite lot behind True Blue, and then 2nd and Willard. There is the Greenfield Lake parking lot there. It's 125 plus spaces. It's lit, it's close. Challenge there is navigating across 3rd Street. So I think if the city could come up with a nice solution to navigate Third Street on foot and make it very pedestrian friendly, especially around that corner there. And then the turns coming off Carolina Beach Road into Third Street there. I think you've got a potential solution that's just sitting there waiting. We just
Lots
gotta
empty.
figure out how to navigate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think this is a good crossroad point of DPAC. It's and parking in general, it's been focused on the core of the CBD. I mean, Lanier's current contract and the next contract, hopefully with Pivot Parking, goes from, we expanded a few years ago, but goes from bridge to bridge, water to Fifth Street now. So we expanded that kind of on-street enforcement out to Fifth Street. That's pretty much where DPAC covers. I think us as a committee need to look at what's going to happen in the next, 12 to 72 months. And maybe we need to start focusing outward, east and south. And maybe we need to shift some of the representatives on the board
District reps.
and maybe if it's 2 DBA members currently, maybe one of those DBA members needs to be from South Front or Soda Pop or outward. And kind of start looking at some of that. Absolutely. Good challenges.
Anything else, anyone? Hearing nothing, I will take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Scott. A second? Thank you, ma'am. And all in favor? Aye, so moved. Thank you, Terry, again for your service. Bye, guys.
I'm like, yeah, it's coming, coming.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.